I'm recording now. We are looking at our exam review, but we're on number 17. We did 1 through 16 on Friday, and we're going to do 17 through 36 today. Okay? So I need you guys to be focused, not messing around, actually paying attention. I recommend watching this again. It's always helpful, especially because you're going to have 2 days without math. And so coming back and looking at this later is good for you. Okay, we're going to start with 17. We know we're starting with quadratics, and we want to know, write a quadratic equation that has been shifted 3 units down, 6 units to the left, and vertically, please stop, vertically stretched by 1/2 as compared to y equals x squared. So I like to put it in vertex form. I feel that that's easier. Y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. H and k is where my vertex goes, and a is how much it's been stretched, so I can figure this out. So we've got y equals, I'm going to start from the bottom. You could do either one. It is stretched by a factor of 1/2, so I put 1/2 in for a. And then I know it's been shifted to the left 6, so I'm going to put x plus 6 squared, and then down 3, so it's minus 3. Okay, so it's the opposite for the x value, but it's the same thing for the y value. I know it's down, so down is negative, but it's the opposite for here because of this negative right in here. Okay, so for number 17. Yes. Okay. 18. We're looking at 18.
So that's the answer?
Yep, that's just the answer. Okay. So now we're looking at 18. 18 says, shh. 18 says, what transformation has been done to y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3 squared minus 5 compared to y equals x squared. So what happens to this? It shifted. How did it shift? Let's try that again. Down how many? 5. So it's down 5. Left 3. Remember, it's the opposite. And stretched by 1/3, and we have to put it was flipped over. That negative means it's flipped over. So it should be down 5, left 3, stretched by 1/3, and flipped over.
So if it's stretched, it's always going to be the fraction part?
Yep. Yep. That A in the front. Stretched by 1/3, stretched by 2, stretched by something, whatever's in front there. Okay, let's look at 19. I think actually it might be easier for me to just write right on here. I think there's enough room. Okay, 19. Write a quadratic equation that has been reflected across the x-axis, shifted 3 units down and 6 units to the right, and vertically stretched by a factor of 4. Okay? So remember, again, we're putting it into y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So what do we want to fill in first? The a? Okay, so what's the a going to be? Where does it say it's stretched? 4. Okay. It does say it's reflected across the x-axis. What does that mean? It means this is negative when it's reflected across the x-axis. So we did that part. We did this part. It's shifted down 3. Where is the down 3 going to go? Minus 3 at the end. Y goes, what happens to the y goes on the outside. And then it's x. It says it's 6 units to the right. So that's minus 6. And make sure this whole thing is squared. How are we doing? Okay. So when it's reflected, it has to be negative in front of the a. Stretched by 4, that's why the 4 goes for the a. If it goes, see how the x is right here? The x tells you right or left, right? So you have to put that in there. Remember, it's the opposite of the sign because it's got that negative in there. Okay? Squared. And then on the outside of the parentheses is where it tells you if it goes up or down. Minus is down, plus is up. Okay? All right. What transformations have been done to y equals 2 times x minus 5 squared plus 6? What transformations have been done?
It's been stretched by 2.
Stretched by 2. What else? Right 5, good. And up 6. Okay. Yep. All right. All of a sudden there's a bunch of tables. I'm going to tell you right now there aren't any tables on your exam. I bet a lot of you looked at 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 and were like, we never learned this. And the answer is, we did not. I am still going to write down the answers for you, but there are not ones like this, but I'm not going to go over them in detail because there's not ones like this on the exam. 21 I did by using the graph instead of the table. And that was, your x minus 1 times x plus 4 equals y. Okay? Then 22 gives us y equals negative 2x squared minus 8x plus 17. Minus 17, excuse me. 23, we get y equals negative 1/9 x squared. And 24, we get y equals negative 1/8 x squared minus 1/4 x plus 4. There's a whole thing where you figure out the second difference to find a. You're like, what's the difference between each of these? Okay, and then you find the difference between those, and then you divide by 2, and that's your a value. And then if you go to 0, you can find your c value, and then you plug it in. It's confusing. It's not too bad when we've gone over it a couple of times, but I'm not going to expect you to know that on the exam. Ready to go to 25? $25 is, again, you could figure this out from the graph right here with the table. It is y equals negative x squared minus 3x minus 4. Okay, we know it's negative because it's upside down. Then you know the c because it crosses here, and then you can plug in a number to find b. Nope. You've done this sort of before, where you've had like, okay, if we have ax squared minus plus bx plus c, we know that a is negative 1. We don't know what b is, and we know c is negative 4 equals y. And then you took an x value from here and plugged it in. Like I could do negative 1 and negative 2, so it would be like minus negative 1 squared plus b times negative 1 minus 4 equals negative 2, and then you solve for b. I believe we've done that before. But there is not one like this on your exam.
Well, like the ones where it's just that, or just the x and y.
Yeah.
That's not
Okay. Number 26. We factor and we get x plus 1 and x plus 4. Number 27, I get x plus 3 and x minus 5. Any questions about the factoring? Okay, so I make the box, right? And I put in the box x squared and 4. Okay? Now, I know x times x is the only thing that gives me x squared. And what two numbers multiply to give me 4? 2 times 2, but 2 times 2 plus 2 does not give me 5, right? What else multiplies to give me 4? 4 times 1. 4 times x is 4x. X times 1 is 1x. These two add up to give me 5x. So then the outside x and 1 and x and 4 go right there. Okay. Should I do 27 too? Like that? Okay. All right. What goes in this box right here, Lana? Okay. What goes in this box down here? Yep. Okay, we know that the only thing that gives us x squared is x times x, right? So I fill that in. What two numbers multiply to give me negative 15? 3 and 5 is the only thing it can be. Okay, one has to be positive, one has to be negative, right? So I get negative 2x. So when I add 5 and 3 together, I need to get negative 2x. So which one has to be negative? 5, because 5 minus 2 gives me 3, and 5 minus 3 gives me 2, and I want a negative 2. So that has to be negative, that has to be positive. Because 3x and negative 5x adds together to give me negative 2x. So far, so good? Okay. Number 28. I'm going to give the answers from 28 till 33, and then I'll do the ones that you guys have questions on, okay? Okay, 28 is 6 and negative 6. 29 is 4 and negative 4. 30 is x equals negative 3 and 4. 31, x equals negative 6 and 3. 32, x equals negative 1.266 and 2.766. And 33, I get negative 1.5 plus or minus 2.179i. Okay, anything else besides 33? 32 and 33? Okay, I'm going to do 32 first. Okay, so we know we're going to use Pythagorean theorem, not Pythagorean theorem, quadratic formula, okay, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And for 32, I know a equals negative 2, b equals 3, and c equals 7. Okay. I'm going to move this up. All right, so I'm going to plug it in. So I'm going to say negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times 7 all over 2 times negative 2. Okay? So now I'm going to solve this. I'm just going to bring down that negative 3 plus or minus. I'm going to do what's underneath this square root. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 7 is 56, and it's plus 56, right? Because a negative times a negative is a positive. So 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. So the square root of 65 over negative 4. Okay? Now we can figure out a number that goes into 65 evenly, where 1 is a perfect square, or we could just leave it like this. Let's see, what goes into, anything going to 65? No. Okay, so we can just say negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 65 over negative 4. And if your answer is decimals, you just stick this in your calculator, and it gives you negative 1.266 and 2.766. Because remember, when you put it in your calculator, you have to do one with a plus sign and one with a minus sign. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Ready for 33? Okay. All right, for 33, we've got x squared plus 3x plus 7, right? Okay, so what's my a value? Good. What's my b? And what's my c? Okay, so I'm going to go negative b. Gotta wait till Mady comes back. Ms. Murphy speaking. Yep. When Mady gets back, can you tell her she's being signed up? Okay. So we get -3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 7 all over 2 times 1. So then I'm just going to go through and solve it. I'm going to bring -3 down, plus or minus. I'm going to bring 2 underneath. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Okay. So 9 minus 28 ends up being a negative what? 28 minus 9 is 21, right? Now, we cannot have a negative underneath the square root sign, so what am I going to do? Pull an I out. Now, there's no number that goes into 21.
No, well,
20, what should be 19? My answer, hold on, I messed up.
10.5.
So 3 times 3 is 9, right? 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 7 is 28. Is 19, not 21. Okay. So, nothing comes, I cannot subtract, apparently, is the problem here. But nothing comes out of 19, so I get negative, I'm going to write this better so you can actually tell what answer it is. -3 plus or minus I square root 19 over 2. Now, if I put the square root of 19 in my calculator, it will give me, I'll get -3 over 2 plus or minus I over, what, and I'm dividing it by 2, I get 2.179. Or -1.5 plus or minus 2.179I. Okay? This is just in your, if you left it like this, you're fine. But if it's multiple choice and it's giving me answers that look like this, just put it in my calculator. Just put it in your calculator. Leave out the I. Just do this half and then do this half. Okay, any other questions, 28 through 33? Okay. Okay. All right, 34. We have 10 minus 18I. 35, we have 8 minus 4I. Can you guys see? Okay. And number 36, we've got 24 plus 18I. And 37, we get 18 over 13 minus 1I over 13.
Oh, now did you do a box?
Mm-hmm. I did. I can do it again if you want.
Yeah.
Want me to do it? Okay. 37, remember, what do we have to multiply by the top and bottom? The what? Conjugate. 3 plus 2I and 3 plus 2I. I see a lot of you guys on your phones. I really hope you do well on this part of the exam, but it makes me nervous when you're all on your phone. Okay, so I'm going to do the top first. I have 4 and -3I, and 3 and 2I. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2I is 8I. -3 times 3 is -9I. And -3 times 2 is -6I squared, which becomes 6. 12 plus 6 is 18. And -9 plus 8 is 1. Okay, now I'm going to do the bottom, which should just give me a number. 3 and -2I and 3 and +2I. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 2I is 6I. -2I times 3 is -6I. And -2I times 2I is -4I squared, which is 4. 6I and 6I cancel each other out. 9 plus 4 is 13. So that's why there's a 13 on the bottom of both of those. You're good though? Okay. All right. Yes.
Can we do one of those with because on the review of the last quiz, there's one number on the top, something like that.
I'll just make one up. I don't know how nice it'll look, but I can totally make it up. So if there's 3 and then this is 2 plus 4i, something like that. So we still multiply the top and bottom by the conjugate, right? Which is 2 minus 4i and 2 minus 4i. I recommend for the top just thinking of it like a distributive property. So the top ends up being 6 minus 12i. And then the bottom, we're still going to do the box. We have 2 and 4i and 2 and negative 4i. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative 4i is negative 8i. Positive 8i. Negative 16i squared, or 16. 16 plus 4 is 20. Well, then you can reduce it, because 6 over 20 reduces to 3/10. Minus 12 over 20 gives us 6i over, no, I can do bigger than that. 3i over 5. Okay. Others? So let's think about this whole thing. You guys are good with the complex numbers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing? You're good with using quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. You guys are okay with factoring? Okay. You guys are okay with telling me what kind of transformations happened?
Yeah, those are actually easier than I thought.
I think they're easier than you think too. Okay, let's look back at 16. 16 is talking about finding the slope and y-intercept. We're good here?
I mean, we should just try this. Yeah.
You want to do one more? Okay, let's just look at D. Okay, so we can find the slope. We're just going to go 2 minus 3 over 1 minus 0. I got them from right here. And I get negative 1 over 1, which is just negative 1. Then I can just plug it in. Y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. And if it wants me to put it in slope-intercept form, you distribute. Y minus 3 equals negative 1x. And then I'm just going to add 3 to both sides. And I get y equals negative 1x plus 3. Okay, so just slope formula, point slope form, distribute, add, you have it in slope intercept. Y equals mx plus b, yep. Guys, remember parallel means it has the same slope. Perpendicular is the opposite reciprocal. So the same slope for 4 is 4, right? So we're going to, plug this in. Y minus y1 equals 4 times x minus x1. But perpendicular means it has the opposite reciprocal. So I'm going to have 1 minus a negative 9 again equals, what's going to go here for my slope? What's the opposite reciprocal of 4?
Negative 1.
Negative 1/4 times x minus negative 2. And remember, 2 negatives make up this positive, right?
Oh, okay, I messed that up.
And then you can distribute and whatever if it needs to be in slope-intercept form. Okay? These are all the same thing that we just talked about. You find the slope, put it in point slope form, solve for slope-intercept. That's all of 15. 14, this is all about elimination method, substitution method, or graphing. I hate graphing, but you can totally graph if you want. You got graphing calculators. I don't like it. Okay. 13 is all solving for x. We should be pretty good at that by now. 12 and 11 are those story problems, but they're not that hard as long as you put them, they're going to be in slope-intercept form, right? Y equals mx plus b. Okay. 9 and 10 are pretty much logic problems, trying to figure those out. We've already talked a bunch about slope. This is all more slope. 3, 4, and 5 are all story problems, but again, it's all about y equals mx plus b. If it says per month, that's your m. And if it's like that first initial price, that's your b. Okay? Again, this is a linear equation to following with systems, and this is just solving an equation. Okay? Any one that you want me to go over in more detail, I just quickly went over all of them.
I think we're good.
I think my biggest suggestion for you guys is to do this again. I know you've done it all, and it was a lot of work. Get out a piece of paper and do it again, especially Thursday night, right, before coming here. Or if you finish fifth hour exam early. Try some of these again. You know what I'm saying? Questions? All right, I'm going to stop recording. If you have individual questions or you're like, let's work this problem out, I can totally do that. We've got a decent amount of time left for the end of the hour for you guys to work on that. I recommend going through here, circle 10 problems that you had the hardest time with. Do those 10, like a variety from linear and a quadratic. Okay? All right, I'm hitting stop.